Pod Street is an official affiliate of Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com/upodstreet and 10% of your order will go directly to supporting the pod. Use code UPODSTREET at checkout and you'll get 10% taken off your order. Now sit back, relax, and keep that beer cold because it's on to UPod Street. What is up, Birdland? Welcome to UPod Street. As always, I'm your co-host, Jimmy Horn, and joining me is a man who today personally willed the Orioles to a walk-off win, the brunette Thor himself, Jack Bain. Jack, do you still have a voice after that game?
Yes, I do. It wasn't very exciting for a good 5 innings there. Pitchers really locked in. But towards the end, it got a little rowdy. Yeah, man, how are you?
Dude, I'm doing well. Been watching a lot of baseball. Been attending a lot of games. I think I've already been to 5 games so far.
Heck yeah.
Weather's warming up. I mean,
Mm.
Baltimore in spring is a vibe, man. The city comes alive. All the bar decks open up, and you can just go to baseball whenever you want, pretty much. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Not too much. And, it's been a while since we recorded, so we have a lot of baseball to go over. I know some of the stuff from 2 weeks ago probably isn't as relevant anymore. So we'll probably just go through it quickly, touch on the big things that happened in the series rather than the specific games. And then as we get closer to present day, kind of start breaking down more of those games, especially this Twins series that was pretty good to us.
Absolutely. Well, Jack, on that note, then, you want to go ahead and get us started with some notes from around the league?
Yes, sir. We'll just do a quick standings update, see who's hot and who's not. Some of the bigger headlines from around Major League Baseball. So yeah, just starting at home here in the AL East. The New York Yankees dropped 3 in a row to start off this week, but righted the ship today with a comeback win against the Blue Jays to keep their half-game lead over the Orioles in first place of the American League East Division. Red Sox have certainly cooled off from their start of the season since the last time we talked. They're at 9-9. Blue Jays have been playing okay baseball. Kind of won some games that maybe they shouldn't have. They are at 10-9, and the Rays are at 10-8. So again, the AL East proving that it is one of the best divisions in baseball, not a team under 500. And we'll see how the Red Sox finish out their game today against the Guardians. Speaking of the Guardians, they are in first place in the AL Central. They have the advantage of not playing as many games as the Kansas City Royals, and they currently hold a 1-game lead in the AL Central over the Royals. Royals, however, have been playing good baseball. Bobby Witt is certainly that dude, and he's going to let you know about it. Been hitting homers, swiping bags, doing it on defense. He's been doing it all for the Royals, who have a fun, exciting young core. They're 12-7. Detroit Tigers 10-8. Kind of had a rough go of it last week, dropping 6 of 10. Haven't really been playing well at home. The Detroit Tigers kind of makes you hope, if you're a Tigers fan, those stadium dimensions can get moved up a little bit quicker, but I believe that is next year. They are 10-8. Minnesota Twins really having a tough go of it recently. They dropped 4 in a row to finish out their road trip. They're at 6-11, and the poverty Chicago White Sox stole one from the Royals today for their 3rd win of the season. They're in the cellar at 3-15. Over in the AL West, the Texas Rangers, defending World Series champions, are atop of that division at 10-9, followed by the Seattle Mariners, LA Angels, Oakland Athletics, who are not in last, surprisingly, in last, the Houston Astros sitting at 6-14. Now,
The Oakland Athletics, who are soon to be just the Athletics.
just the Athletics of Sacramento, perhaps.
The
Now,
Oakland Athletics of Sacramento, California.
the Astros are a weird one here. The Astros are a very weird one. They are running back a lineup that, made a long playoff push last year, minus a few arms, but they stink. I've watched a couple of their games, and I think it's the pitching, man. Like they just can't keep the team in games. Like it's still a high powered offense, but their run differential is minus 23. So
Yeah,
obviously,
I it's weird. I feel like every year though the Astros get started off slow, and people go, "This is it.
slow.
This is the year that the Astros go down," and then all of a sudden they find it, and then they kick up again. So I don't know. I'm not ready to count them out yet. They you are right. They are looking bad, but I don't know if you can count them out just yet because they always seem to figure it out by June.
I will say they have played a very good schedule so far. Had one of the hardest schedules in the major leagues. All of their games were played against opponents with an above 500 record. Granted, early in the season, above 500 records can mean 1-0. But every game they played has been against an opponent with a winning record.
Well, to be fair, I think the Orioles are pretty close to that. Because
The
even the Angels, I think were at 500 like yesterday or something like that. Like
the Orioles have played 12 of their 18 games against people above 500. But again, it's a tough stat to use just because it's so early in the season. Like, yeah, one of those games. I guess the Angels were
Angels
not.
haven't been as bad as we expect them to
Yeah.
be yet. Yet.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Astros, man, like they're getting Verlander back on Friday. So maybe that'll offer a little bit of relief. But they just have not been playing that Astros brand of baseball that we've come to know. Anytime you're looking up at the Athletics of Sacramento, Las Vegas, all of the above, never a good sign. But a fun story coming out of Oakland nonetheless. Esteury Ruiz has hit 2 home runs in 3 games since coming back up from AAA. Who knows what was going on with that send down to AAA? Could have been the A's tanking, could have been that Ruiz really did need to work in AAA, but nonetheless, glad that he is doing well again.
Did you
Here in the
see
major leagues.
the wristband controversy with that?
Did not.
Supposedly people zoomed in on his wrist and he was wearing something that had been going around Oakland that was like Oakland strong or like stand with Oakland. It was something like that. It was a little green wristband that people who don't want the Athletics to leave Oakland had been wearing.
Sure.
And as soon as that picture came out, he got sent down to AAA. So there are conspiracy theories that Jeff Fisher, who is John Fisher, excuse me. He's not worthy of me remembering his name because he's kind of a jerk. John Fisher perhaps pulled a John Angelos, was super sensitive and decided to punish someone for something that he didn't like. But who knows for sure? It seems to be a mystery.
I just don't understand how you could send down somebody who stole that many bases last year and plays a fine defense, can swing it a little bit,
and has been on a tear to start the season. I mean,
Yeah, so I mean he's back up now. He's doing his thing. Over in the National League, Atlanta Braves have a good hold on the NL East right now. They're 12-5, playing good baseball, pretty much doing it all. They won 4 in a row. They're heading back home to play Texas. Should be a good series coming up there in Atlanta. The New York Mets thought that they were dead out the gate, but here they are winning 8 out of 10 to bring their record to 10-8 and second place in the NL East.
That's the DJ Stewart effect.
The DJ Stewart effect is right. A lot of fun young guys there as well. Brett Beatty was playing a good third base. Hopefully his thumb is not broken. I know there was an injury possibility there. He said in a presser that he will be okay, and he will continue to play for the Mets. Phillies in third place at 10-8. they always have a slow start. I feel like they really kick it up in the
Yeah.
middle of the
Yeah.
year.
Bryce
So yeah,
Harper's already looking good though. I mean, last year he didn't start the first 2 months of the season because of his
yeah,
arm, and this year he didn't have that, and so he started off pretty hot.
yeah. And he's playing first base now, which is fun. Um, it's always fun to see guys like that kind of play around the field in different spots. Bryce Harper playing first base is a prime example of that. Washington Nationals, little brother down south, is 8-10. They come to Baltimore here in a little bit. Oh no, we go to them
We go to
first.
them in May. Yeah, yeah.
This first week of May. Um, they're above the Miami Marlins, who are 4-15. Marlins. Edward Cabrera pitched well. That's about
That's
all I got for the
something.
Marlins.
Yeah, they seem like they've given up pretty early on.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. Like they made the playoffs last year, man. Like I feel like that's a management thing over there.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like last year, like they made the playoffs, and you thought, like, oh, could this be the start of something? And the management was like, nah, let's just trade guys away and not
Yeah,
replace them. And I don't know what's going on down there in
yeah.
Miami.
The scalding hot Milwaukee Brewers on top of the NL Central at 11-6. They're pitching real well these days. Had a real barn burner today in San Diego. 1-0 was the final score. They came out on top. They are followed by the Chicago Cubs, who are doing it on offense in that top tier of teams for runs scored so far this season. They are doing really well at home. They are a good home team. Really like to play at Wrigley. That's where they're doing it. Guys like Ian Happ in the middle of that order. Cody Bellinger, re-signed free agents, also doing it. Another team that's doing it, the Pittsburgh Pirates, certainly didn't do it
Yeah.
against the Orioles. They're doing it to about just everybody else except for whoever they played this weekend. Dropped 3 in a row. Cincinnati Reds. They have also dropped 3 in a row. They're at 9-9. Young guys just got to work some stuff out. They'll be all right. They're scoring a lot. Just got to figure it out in the mound. St. Louis Cardinals in the cellar at 9-10. They are at home against Milwaukee to set up a pretty big series in the NL Central. LA Dodgers, they're good, but they're human. They are human for sure. They are 12-9. I mean, they're just hitting the ball really well, but just kind of falling short in some games. Those dudes at the top of the lineup, like they're always there. They'll show up every night. It's just if the guys at the bottom are going to show up, and the guys on the hill are.
I saw they got the shutout today for the first time since like August last year or something.
Wow, yeah. I mean, with the lineups that they run out, I mean, I'm not surprised. The defending NL champion Arizona Diamondbacks, a team that I do have a soft spot for. Kind of a slow start out of the jump. Pitching has not been great so far, but the offense is there, so they can put it all together. They can make a run at it again. Giants 8-11, doing all right, man. Blake Snell's not been the guy that they were hoping so far, but it's a long season. Can write.
He also didn't get a spring training really, so
No. Colorado Rockies 4-14 in the basement. That's what's
they're
going
right
on
there with the
around there.
Marlins, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have it here in your outline here too. I feel like something that everyone's been talking about is how about all these pitching injuries, man?
Yeah, so that was like something when I was watching Sunday Night Baseball. ESPN like really, really couldn't get off of it, and they've been doing a lot of it on their social media too. A video from Tyler Glass now talking about it
Yeah,
resurfaced
about the
and I
sticky stuff.
yeah, and I think that was kind of like what propelled this whole thing, other than guys getting hurt every other week. Yeah, man, it's just kind of crazy. All these like aces. I don't know if you saw it today. I can't remember if it was ESPN or MLB. They put out an Instagram post of bona fide aces.
That was
Um,
ESPN. Yeah.
yeah, and it was like the top four top 5, and I think I can't remember who it was, but like Corbin Burns was 4.
Yeah, Corbin Burns was 4 according to them. Yeah.
And I do love Corbin Burns, and he is a bona fide ace. But there's definitely some other aces out there that I think would probably be ahead of Burns.
Well, MLB pitcher power rankings has him ranked as
Yeah,
first.
yeah. I mean, power rankings don't account for the guys that are hurt.
Fair enough.
So of course, he's going to be number 1. And I mean, he is pitching like a number 1 pitcher in the league right now.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about him in a bit.
For sure. But like the rest of that list that ESPN posted, there was like 6 guys that were all hurt with elbow injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to deny that there was a massive change that happened. People point to the pitch clock. They say that guys are working too fast. They're not used to it, and they're hurting their elbows because of it. Now, I don't know about you. Like, I don't know your stance on this, but when I first heard that, I was like, are we serious?
It both makes sense to me, but also I'm like, I don't know about that. Especially here's the thing too is the pitch clock for a lot of these pitchers, more of the pitchers on the younger side, they've been dealing with it for a while because it was tested out in the minor leagues for a while before coming to the majors. So to sit here and be like, oh well, 2 years ago we got the pitch clock and that's caused people to suddenly get injuries. Like, no, the pitch clock's been around longer, just not in the major leagues. And so guys are pretty well used to it. I mean, even Jim Palmer today posted something about it where he was saying like, why don't you give them 5 more seconds, because that would allow them more time of rest between each pitch. I don't know. I think the Glasnow thing makes a lot of sense to me, where he talks about like
the pitch clock,
where he talked about like he was gripping the ball harder in order to get that spin rate better. And he said that, when he had to do that, when he had to make that change, he was suddenly sore in places he had never been sore before as a pitcher. I like to Section 336 was talking about it. Now, granted, they're not doctors. They're like us. They're normal fans who have a podcast.
Yeah.
But they're talking about like, the thing is there is no rest time for pitchers nowadays in the major leagues. Once the season ends, you go down to Florida, you go down to Arizona, you go down to wherever you go to have your pitch training camp. And suddenly you come back and you're pitching harder than you ever had before because you took the whole off season to lift and throw and practice and all that stuff. So without an off season, that increases the chance of injury as well. It could be a combination of all 3 things. Honestly, I don't think you can definitively say it's the pitch clock. I think the pitch clock could contribute, but I think the sticky stuff and the harder workouts is probably a bigger factor to the injuries than anything else.
Yeah, I just like my one rebuttal towards like the pitch clock being the cause of arm injuries. Like, guys have worked quickly for a really long time, and they have been able to keep themselves healthy. Again, not a doctor here. But like if that was really an issue of guys working faster causing arm issues, wouldn't we have seen that more, like, just in recent time, of guys who work fast having elbow injuries? You just don't see that as much, and especially like they don't point to working fast as the cause of the elbow injury. There's obviously some underlying thing there that probably has more of a cause than just working quickly. I think that Glasnow really outlined like a good reason as to why guys are getting hurt. I mean, think about guys that had high spin rates before. I mean, John Means, for example. Like, granted, he got hurt before the stuff was taken away, but he hasn't been like able to get back 100% healthy. It's taken a long time. It's taken a really long time. And for him to maybe have to grip those pitches harder,
I think too, we've seen in baseball over the past several years, there's been such a focus on increased velocity, where I forget who I was listening to that talked about this, but the idea of, do I want a pitcher with a 4.6 ERA but can throw 99.8 regularly, or do I want a pitcher with a 3.2 ERA but his velocity is 93 miles an hour, but he's got good stuff. And the trend has been going towards the former, going towards the guy that has faster velocity, even though his ERA is higher and stuff like that. It makes me wonder if this is sustainable, and maybe we see the pendulum swing a little bit, and it goes back towards seeing those guys that have good stuff versus the guys that have good velocity. I mean, we are literally like seeing this in like a microscope right now, because the ace on our team is Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns is not hitting 100 miles per hour. Corbin Burns, his best pitch is a curveball. And so I maybe that's what's going to happen in baseball, is people are going to go, well, I can't trust my high velocity pitcher to stay healthy. I'd much rather invest in a guy that has good stuff than
Yeah.
anything else. I don't
And I
know. We'll see.
wonder, it would be like a fun brain exercise to look, because colleges, like D1 college, they have a pitch clock for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They have a pitch clock. I wonder like if it's worth looking at guys at that level of baseball and seeing what their injury rate is as well, and just kind of like compare it to major leaguers. Obviously, the workload isn't the same, but they play a really quick season. They can play up to 60 games a year from February 1st or January, whatever it is, up until middle of June when the College World Series is. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see, because obviously, sticky stuff isn't allowed there as well. Just kind of see what the rate of injury is. Granted, younger guys, a lot of variables at play, but it could be a fun exercise. But enough with injuries. Let's get into what the Orioles have done over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, so when we last talked to folks, we were in that middle of the Kansas City series where game 1 we had that walk-off Jordan Westburg home run. Game 2 is what we were actually recording during. The Orioles did not win that game. But hey, game 3, a game that the Orioles had zero reason to win. They played horrible throughout that entire game. Suddenly, 8th and 9th inning comeback, Orioles walk it off of James McCann RBI single. And then off the momentum of winning 2 out of 3 that they had no business winning, they went to Pittsburgh, started off great, really spoiled the home opener for Pittsburgh. Got home runs in that first game from Gunnar Henderson, Ryan O'Hearn, Cedric Mullins. And then all of a sudden, the offense fell asleep, Jack. And the Orioles lose the final 2 games of that 3-game series. Both of those games, they lose in the 9th inning and or in extras. And I think for me, Jack, I think that was where I really started to feel the loss of Felix Bautista. And it's not that Craig Kimbrell pitched bad. He actually did pretty well. The problem is, last year, Felix Bautista would give you 2 innings.
Yeah.
Craig Kimbrell is not giving you 2 innings. So he'd come in and he'd get a hold, but then you had to go to Mike Baumann in the next inning, and he wasn't doing it. So I think these were the games where we started to really feel the loss of Felix Bautista.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was a Pirates team that was really hot at the time too. Like after this Baltimore series, they were 8-2. Like that's no slouch of a team. Everything was clicking for them, especially on the mound. Like starters who really shouldn't be dealing as like they were, like Marco Gonzalez, 6 innings, 2 earned, holding the Orioles offense at bay, followed up by young guys like O'Neal Cruz, really having a really good series, a couple doubles, couple homers. The series, like, it didn't feel like we were ever in it. I feel like it was just an uninspiring series. And honestly, that's kind of how I felt mostly about like this whole Orioles couple weeks, like uninspired baseball. But they were able to turn out some wins. But I think this was the most uninspired that the team was this Pittsburgh series.
It was definitely like the lowest of the vibes.
Yeah.
I would say, like, it didn't feel energized. It didn't feel like this team was really where they wanted to be mentally.
Yeah.
I think there was this kind of feeling of like, wait, we're supposed to be the 101 win Orioles, and
Right.
we're losing. What is that? What is that supposed to be like? That like it felt like they couldn't really comprehend what was going on. Needed to be a big vibes change there, and sounded like they might have had some team meetings after this series. And they didn't really come out and fully say that, but just the fact that like even like the home run celebration changed after this
Hmm.
series, where they said, "Let's go back to the waterworks. Let's go back to the dong bong." Like it really felt like they kind of they had to have had some sort of like players only meeting or at least a discussion on the plane or something where they said, all right, guys, let's turn the ship around. And whatever they did worked
Yeah,
because they
absolutely.
strolled into Boston. And first of all, game one, Boston home opener. You know, I don't care who you are. You go into Boston for Fenway's home opener. You know, the vibes are pretty high in Boston there, and Corbin Burns just shoved, absolutely shut down the Red Sox. Orioles go on to dominate that game one. I believe they won 7-1.
Yeah, and this
Game,
was also let's note that this was the start of the Colton Cowser
yeah,
era in
yeah.
Baltimore.
Let's put a little pin right there on the schedule. Like, okay, that's where it started. Colton Cowser awoke really angry. I don't know what someone in Boston ever did to Colton Cowser or his family, but they better apologize because he ended up having himself a series here. First player in organization history, either Orioles or St. Louis Browns, to have a 10 RBI series in Fenway. There's your nice little history stat
Fun
for
fact.
this. Um, Game two, which was just like a drunk game, drunk nightmare. Orioles were down 5-0, somehow came back to win 7-5. And then game three, uh, they also come back, and all of a sudden they have a 6-run 10th inning. Colton Cowser, of note in that game, had both his first and second career home runs in that one game. Um, Orioles completed the sweep. Always great to sweep a division rival, even if the Red Sox are expected to not be that good this year. Hey, division games are hard. And if you can take three in a row from a division rival, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think
Um,
that sweep really kind of put the brakes on a hot Boston team at the time. Like they
mhm.
were what 7-4 going into the series, and they ended 7-7.
Yeah, something
Really
like that.
brought them back down to earth. But I will say the Red Sox pitched a really good series, and I think they're still continuing to pitch pretty well. Cutter Crawford really shut the O's down for 5 solid innings in that middle game of the series. And again, like I don't want to keep harping on it, but the guys were waiting until the last second to really turn it on offensively. Um, and
It's
I don't know
something
about
like when you look at the numbers, I remember they broke it down during the series where like the Orioles in innings 1 through 6 have like a I don't know, like a 1.35 average and like not very
yeah.
many runs, but
Oh
then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
innings innings 6 through 9, like they have some absurd like 2.289 average
Right.
and like I don't know. I'd have to look up the stats, but it was something ridiculous where just like I don't know why you can't do that the first 6 innings, but okay, as long as it works.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, yeah, they're wins, but is this gonna fly like mid July? You know, early September? I don't know. We it's not something that we can answer right now. And it might not be that way come that time, anyways. So
But we went from the high vibes of a Boston series that, by the way, yes, did include a Jackson Holliday debut. We will be breaking that down in just a little bit. To a Milwaukee series at home, you know, tons of fans showing up to see the number one prospect in baseball make his home debut. Also, just really interesting storylines. Of course, that big offseason trade where we got Corbin Burns from the Milwaukee Brewers for DL Hall and Joey Ortiz, both of whom would end up playing in this series. And to start off the series, it did not go well, to say the least. Uh, both game one and game two, the Brewers scored 11 runs. Um, Certified not good. Now, Colton Cowser did have a home run in game one, which continued his tear. And game two, you had a pretty hot start by the Orioles offense. However, the Orioles pitching did not respond. I believe that was Tyler Wells on game two.
Tyler Wells was game one.
Tyler Wells was game one. And then was it Irvin? No, it was Kremer. It was Dean Kramer
Yeah.
for game two. Both of them did not pitch well. And that's just kind of the story of those two games. He brought in Corbin Burns for game three to try and keep the regular season sweepless streak alive. Even then, I mean, Corbin Burns struggled a little bit, but somehow the Orioles still pulled it out and kept that sweepless streak alive, and kind of felt like, okay, maybe it's time to right that ship again.
Yeah. And for game one, not to go back to that dreadful game, give Freddie Peralta his flowers for what he did to us. I mean, good God. Full control of the strike zone, 11 punch outs across 7 innings. Like, the Orioles didn't stand a chance. The fact that Freddie Peralta was on, like, I gave the O's a pass for that one. Like, Freddie Peralta is a great pitcher. Had a couple All-Stars under his belt. That guy's a gamer. Chalk that game up. Little scuffle in there. Little scuffle.
Yeah. Do we understand what happened there yet? So I was at the game.
No.
Yeah, the
I mean,
Brewers were just pouring it on us, and then all of a sudden, James McCann and Willie Adames were up in each other's face, and all the benches cleared. And I was like, "What happened?" It looked like James McCann took exception to something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the best guess is he took exception to either what Adames did earlier in the game or what Contreras did on the batter before on the homer.
Adames said that it was not about his home run, flexing his home run earlier in the game, but he didn't say what it was about. So, like, I don't.
Yeah,
And
we'll
McCann wasn't revealing what it was about either. So I don't know.
So I mean, there you go. We'll never know. But it was fun to watch.
Yeah, it gave us a little bit of entertainment in a blowout.
Yeah, a little fire, perhaps that was found in game 3. On the offensive front. Anyways, Cedric Mullins kind of started heating up in this game, had a homer. Corbin Burns, his pitch count just got pretty high pretty quick. But I mean, even then, like, he still limited the damage, kept the O's in it, and we were able to really scrap out a win there against a tired Brewers bullpen and an inferior starter.
Well, this is what I'll say too about the Corbin Burns start, which ultimately was really not that bad. I mean, the thing is, we've seen between that start and his start against the Royals, we've seen two, I would call them, bad starts for Corbin Burns. And it's wild to me that a bad start for Corbin Burns still results in 3 or less runs. I mean, gone are the days where we were having Jordan Lyles pitch for us and he was giving up 3 runs in the first inning. And you're like, well, he'll settle down. Don't worry. And he'll only give up 5 runs for the game. And that'll be a good start. Like, no, we actually have a real ace right now who, like, a bad start is 3 runs max.
Yeah. Sure.
But also, I give him a little bit of a pass for that start in Milwaukee against Milwaukee, because I always believe that when a pitcher is going up against his former team, that his former team has the advantage because they have the scouting report on him. They know every single detail. They know every single pitch that he throws, where he likes to locate, what his timing is. Like, there are so many factors going against a pitcher going against his former team. And I did love the quote. Someone asked, like, if he felt like he had the advantage over the Brewers going into that game because he knows all of them. And his response was, I feel like I have advantage over everyone when I'm on the mound, which I love. The confidence.
Which is true.
Absolutely. I just, I don't fault him for having not his best outing against his former team, because there's a lot going against the pitcher in that scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. So regardless of how bad that Milwaukee series one, still came out winning 2 of 3. not getting swept is big, especially if that last game of the series will build you a little momentum going into the next series. Kind of what baseball is all about. It's a long season, game of momentums, game of runs. And I think the Orioles kind of, were a little angry at how the Brewers series went. They came into town and rolled them for 2 straight games, and I don't think that they were going to let the Twins do that, especially, them being a way worse team than the Brewers right now. Um,
I mean, yeah, what else can you say? I mean, that offense woke up and in a big way. I mean, game 1 and 2, you had several home runs. Also game 1, I was at game 1, that Cedric Mullins catch. Can we just talk about that for a second? Because that's probably the greatest catch I've ever seen in person at a baseball game ever
yeah.
in my entire life. And I was in center field for it. And I got to tell you, those camera angles that show the replay of it does not give it justice,
Mm,
because being behind him and seeing just how far he actually flew to catch that ball, I
yeah.
remember thinking mid jump, like I had enough time. He was in the air enough time that I had a thought in my head going, no, there's no way. There's no way this is about to happen. And when he caught it, I mean, mind blown. Like I was speechless. What
yeah.
do you say to that? And then the fact that he homered in the same game feels like every year we have like a Cedric Mullins game where it's just like, oh yeah, he is him. And
Yeah.
like that was that game. And he's homer now, what, in 4 straight games?
Yeah.
Something like that. He's on a tear, showing us exactly why Cedric Mullins is still on this team, man.
Yeah. Absolutely. Game 1, O's won 7-4. This was a game that Cole Irvin started. I didn't think that he really pitched that awful.
He was
Um,
average. Wasn't
yeah,
great, wasn't bad.
just didn't get a lot of length. Dylan Tate looked good. I think that was a bright spot in this game. Even though the control wasn't there 100%, only gave up 1 hit across an inning in the third. Didn't strike anybody out, but it's fine. Sinker ball pitcher, getting ground balls.
He's still getting
Um,
his feet under him, I think. I mean,
yeah,
he was gone from baseball for a year. It's still going to take some time, and the fact that he looked halfway decent in April, I think is a good sign for things to come.
yeah. Absolutely. Keegan Aiken looked a little rough. Only got through a third of an inning, 2 earned. Gave way to Yennier Cano, who wiggled out of that jam and then made a very nice PFP there at the end of his outing to secure that inning-ending double play. Craig Kimbrell then picked up his 4th save of the year. Orioles took a much-needed momentum-building win. A lot of homers in this game, like you said, O'Hearn, Henderson, Mullins. The Twins let Louis Varland cook out there, bro.
Yeah, they did.
I was,
They kept leaving him out there. I was like,
he let up 6 runs, only 4 of them were earned, but 11 hits. Just and that was kind of the same story with the next game as well, right?
mm-hmm.
Like they just let their starters sit out there, and like I know that Chris Paddock is probably a little bit better than Louis Varland, maybe. But to leave a guy out there for 5 1/3, 9 earned runs.
That blew me away. And all I could think was, they're thinking, let's save the bullpen a little bit. But I'm also like, for what? For
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. I mean, I do get like you're down 7 going into the 4th inning. Like this game is probably chalked up for you in your head, especially for facing an Orioles offense that absolutely woke up in a big way. I mean, Gunnar hit another home run in this game. Westberg hit a home run in this game. O'Hearn hit another home run in this game. Same culprits, just couldn't get him out.
After
Um,
O'Hearn had gotten robbed earlier, he almost had 2 home runs in that game.
yeah, yeah. Just an overall offensive masterclass by the Orioles. David Banuelos was called up prior to this game, moving Tyler Wells onto the 15-day IL. He got 1 at bat and then was DFA'd prior to the game today. Today is April 17th. And the corresponding roster move was to call up a longtime big leaguer, Albert Suarez. Now tell me, how many years passed by between Albert Suarez making a major league appearance?
7 years.
7 years.
2017 was his last major league appearance.
The last time he threw, and this was information given to me by my friend Nick Testoni on WBAL radio. The last time that he threw in a major league game, Hunter Pence was the leadoff man on the Giants. He was pitching to Buster Posey.
Wow.
I mean, that's a long time ago. That's a long time ago. So now tell me this. What were you thinking coming into this game, knowing that Albert Suarez, I had never heard of Albert Suarez before today.
I had only heard of him because people were going kind of crazy during spring training. He pitched really well against a Phillies lineup that in spring training was pretty close to what their major league lineup was going to be, and he got like 8 strikeouts and pitched pretty well, and people thought, yo, maybe this guy's a dude. And then the rest of his spring training did not go as well. And so when they called him up, my expectations, Jack, was like, this is basically going to be a bullpen game. If we can get 3 innings out of this guy, like, that's a good day.
And I think that was the consensus in the stadium as well. Like, get this guy through 3, give way to the bullpen. We'll see what we can do. But this guy came out 5 2/3 of an inning and probably could have finished that last third. 5 2/3, 3 hits, no walks, 4 punch outs. Really kept the Orioles in a good spot there. Going into later innings, definitely a quality start. Keeping the Twins off the board, was mixing really well. And that was something really cool. I had the opportunity to sit 3 rows back behind home plate. And it's just a different experience. Like, you can see pitch movement, pitch location so much better. And he was just dotting all the way around, really making guys uncomfortable at the plate, which is not something that you see a guy who hadn't pitched in 7 years in the major leagues do. Just applause to him for really coming out and helping this team. Hopefully he can do it again when it's his turn again in the rotation. Yeah.
And then to top it off, bullpen comes in, blows it, right?
Jacob Webb did not look good today.
Yeah, gives up 2 runs. So the Orioles, who had this great story going with Albert Suarez, suddenly could the Twins be spoilers? You know, they go up 2-1 in the and suddenly in the bottom of the 8th inning, Tony Taters comes up and taters.
Mushed on a ball, hit it into Mr. Splash's area.
Yeah, Mr. Splash got a home run ball. I love that for him.
I mean, that ball was smoked right off the bat. I mean, just the sound it made, even though it was hitting that long power alley. I mean, it was crazy.
And then bottom of the 9th inning, who should come up but the guy we were just talking about, Cedric Mullins. Kevin Brown on the broadcast. I don't know if you watched the replay, Jack.
I saw it, yeah.
Kevin Brown goes, Cedric Mullins has never had a walk-off home run. The very next pitch, what does he do? Walk-off home run onto the flag court.
Yeah,
completes the sweep of the Twins. I mean, just a really fun series for the Orioles. At the end of it, the Orioles are now sitting 12-6. At the time, the Orioles were tied for first place in the American League East. However, we can only trust the Blue Jays to do so much because they are the Blue Jays. They blow a 9th inning lead, give up 4 runs to the New York Yankees in the top of the 9th inning, which means the Yankees are back being in first place of the American League East by half a game over the Baltimore Orioles.
Not a bad spot to be in, just off of like how flat this team felt over the past 2 weeks. And 12-6. Do we deserve that 12-6? Probably not. Will we take the 12-6? Absolutely.
Well, and here's the thing too. That 12-6, when you start to look at the schedule that we've had to start the season, maybe this one's on me because I talked about in our season preview when I looked at that first month. We're talking about Means and Bradish being out and saying like, well, at least the good news is the first month is a relatively easy month in baseball. Well, you look at those, like we were saying earlier, a lot of those teams that the Orioles have been playing are either at 500 or above 500. Teams playing a lot better than they were expected to be. I mean, the Angels aren't tearing the cover off the ball, but they're playing better than they were expected to be playing. The Kansas City Royals, I mean, dear God, they gave me a flashback to the 2014 Kansas City Royals, the way they just blooped all over the place and just
Yeah.
stole every base that they had possible to steal. Somehow we squeezed two wins out of them, and I would take that and run. Ben here is pointing out that he thinks this next series against Kansas City is going to be a tough series. Got to make sure we score early because we certainly weren't scoring early against them when they came to Baltimore. And I mean, like, even well, like you said, Milwaukee's on a tear right now. The fact that we were able to get a win out of that. I mean, it's been a really tough schedule. I don't think the Yankees have had that tough of a schedule yet to start the season. So the fact
No,
that you're
I mean
sitting
they
here
played the
half a game
Marlins.
behind them, you're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I mean they played the Marlins. Enough said on that one. But yeah, I mean strength of schedule, probably not the same. But like you said, glad to be sitting in second place, still in it. I mean, obviously, start of the season, everybody's kind of in it.
Well,
Um,
it's like they say, you can never win a division in April, but you can lose it in April.
that's true. It's very true.
So you're in a good spot right here.
So something big happened over the last 2 weeks. It seems weird, like talking about it now.
Yeah, it does,
But
but
the number one prospect in baseball, Jackson Holliday, was called up prior to the series in Boston. A lot of expectations coming into this one. I know that like the fanfare around that first game was huge. You know, his family was in attendance. I'm sure the Boston crowd was really giving it to him. But needless to say, the start of Jackson Holliday's young Orioles career has not gone the way that he has planned it.
no, I mean he started off with what, like an 0 for 11. Might have been
Yeah.
0 for 13 by the time he got his first hit in that Sunday game against Milwaukee. Did have his first RBI in that first game on a fielder's choice. So it wasn't that he wasn't productive at all. I mean, here's the thing that I've been seeing with Jackson Holliday. I mean, he's pressing, which is something that you can totally expect from a prospect in their first couple weeks in Major League Baseball.
20-year-old.
They're excited. He's 20 years old. Wants to make a difference, especially someone that's been hyped up as much as he has. You want to come in, especially he was on a tear in Norfolk when he came in. So he was seeing the ball really, really well and kind of came in. And I think there was a little bit of self-confidence there of like, oh, I know what I'm looking at. When you look at the spray charts for where he's getting pitched, I mean, he's getting nothing to hit.
Yeah,
He
why would
is
he?
he is getting stuff dotted in the corners like crazy. He's getting nothing down the middle of the plate at all. These pitchers know who he is and know like they're not going to give him an inch on the plate. He did do something last night that I thought was good, and that was he just sat and waited. And I think that's kind of if I was the Orioles pitching coach, or not pitching coach, the hitting coach, that's exactly what I tell Jackson to do right now. Like, look, they're dotting all over the place. They're barely giving you anything in the strike zone. So just put the bat on your shoulder, man. Once you start getting those
Yeah.
3-0 counts and everything, that's when you're going to start to get stuff to hit again. And I know it's tough because, he is a great hitter. But you got to adjust to the league. And right now the league's saying, hey, if we don't even put this in the strike zone, you're going to swing away and you're going to strike out.
Yeah. I don't know how much I agree with that. Just because like I've in the at bats that I've been watching, like that I've been able to watch live, like he takes a lot of what seems to be heaters on the outside half of the plate, and then he ultimately ends up chasing off speed out of the zone or really good off speed pitches that are borderline on the inside half. or he's like getting outside pitches that are also off speed and just kind of rolling over them. Like thinking about his spray charts on the offensive side, like he's doing a lot of ground balls to the right side. Like even his hit, honestly, probably should have been fielded. The Brewers were in kind of a weird shift. But I just don't know if like that passive approach that he may or may not have been told to take is the way to go, because he's missing a lot of good pitches, tough pitches, that are on the outside half the plate, mostly fastballs, and just kind of letting them go. Might be kind of time to start jumping on some of those early count heaters and trying to work the other side of the field. I get that you want to hit for power. I get that you want to start hitting doubles, triples to the right side, but sometimes you just got to get back to that approach of going the other way, hitting the ball where it's pitched, and just taking those singles when they come. And I mean, right now he's got to take those singles. I mean, one hit so far in his Orioles tenure is not going to do it. I think that he's got to really start being better about pitch selection. And this is, of course, me, just the average fan watching the 20-year-old play Major League Baseball. So take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, it's just the approach looks a little lost. And like you said, I agree. He is pressing big time. Like today, especially, like looking at him in the on deck circle, looking at him in the box, just like really close up. You could tell, you could just feel it coming off of him that he was pressing for those hits, just trying to do what he can for the team.
Now, I will say this in a sort of positive spin on it. What we've seen in the past couple games is he does seem to be squaring up the ball a little bit better.
Yeah, today,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, today he had one that went to the
to the
warning
track.
track. A lot of people
Yep.
thought it was going to go out. I
I
know the
certainly
game
thought it
I
was
was at
going.
on Monday, he hit two line drives, pretty hard hit line drives that unfortunately were just right at the left fielder. So I mean, like those first couple games, he couldn't get a ball out of the infield.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's getting those balls, those hard hit balls, those will start to land. If he's starting to square up like that, those will start to land at some point. I think people just have to understand, dude's 20 years old.
Yeah.
He was in the minor leagues for a year and a month after he was drafted, a month
Yeah.
that year. Like it's gonna take some time. Be patient. I mean, look, Adley Rutschman didn't have an RBI for his first 26 games or something like that.
Yeah.
Gunnar Henderson last year at the start of the season, people thought he was lost. They thought, oh,
Absolutely.
this guy's way overhyped. He's not going to be as good as we all thought he was. Patience is the key with Jackson Holliday. He is going to
Yeah.
find it. He's talking to his dad nightly about how to improve.
Yeah.
Matt Holliday's got to be, one of the best hitting coaches out there, and he knows Jackson better than anyone. I'm sure he's
Yeah.
going to turn this around. Just everyone needs to be just a little bit patient. And the thing is, you kind of have to be, because do we have a better option at second base right now? Absolutely not.
No, probably not. Just to close on the Jackson Holiday topic, Ryan Ripken had a really good tweet earlier today. The Orioles had a situation with a talented rookie back in 1982. After opening day, this rookie was 4 for 55 and was hitting 117 in the start of May. O's kept him. He went on to win Rookie of the Year, 2 MVPs, and have a handsome son in 1993. So I think that tweet, it was a fun tweet, but regardless, the message is still the same.
Yeah.
Don't press the panic button yet, even if it's kind of hard to watch right now.
No, that's a great tweet. That's a great way to end that segment.
Yeah.
Is with that tweet. Thank you, Ryan Ripken. Shout out. But there is a rookie, Jack, who right now is him.
Yeah.
Is tearing the cover off the ball. Is doing exactly what we kind of expected Jackson Holliday to do. And that is the milkman himself, Colton Cowser, who is coming off winning AL Player of the Week. In that week, he had 4 home runs, 12 RBIs, an OPS of 1611.
Yeah, I
Jack,
mean, that's
how are you
good.
feeling about Colton Cowser?
Colton Cowser is fun to watch, dude. I don't know how I feel about the whole milk narrative that's going on.
Hey, listen, we talked about this pre-show. You hate fun, man. You hate fun. The whole cow theme is equally the dumbest. and greatest thing ever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. I don't know. I don't know,
I,
dude.
the fans showing up in like the cow costumes,
Come on, dude.
the
The cows.
mooing, the fact that every time he's up to bat, you hear this loud moo going around the stadium. Like, it's fun.
It's fine. Whatever. It's fine.
Oh,
It's fine.
he's enjoying it. His glove literally says "Welcome to Cowtown."
That's funny.
There you
That's fun.
go.
That's funny.
See,
Yeah, I mean that's funny. But like, if it's him doing it, yes, I think it's funny.
but if he's doing it, why can't the fans play into it? Why can't the commentators play into it? You know that Ben McDonald, going into that Boston series, woke up one morning and said, "You know, it'd be really funny to say about Colton Cowser." And then all of a sudden he hits an RBI double and just goes, "Well, the milkman always delivers." You know he had that plan. You know he had that written
He's
down
ready.
somewhere and was waiting to use
Locked
that
and loaded.
line.
Locked
I
and
mean,
loaded.
it's fun. He's playing well. He's a guy who's got a sense of humor.
Yeah.
He's playing into it. I mean, I will say on Monday night I was there. He was in right field and we were close to him, and we all started mooing him when he caught a ball, and I mean he tipped his hat. He's appreciating the support, I think, is the big thing.
People can moo as long as he wants, or as long as they want, if he continues to bust out American League Player of the Weeks.
And not only that, Jack, I have on here, he is now tied for the best odds to win AL Rookie of the Year with Evan Carter. They're both plus 300 to win AL Rookie of the Year. Do you think that Colton Cowser is a legitimate Rookie of the Year contender going forward? I know he's had a great week. He's had a great start to the season. Do you see this continuing, or do you think he's going to come back to earth pretty hard at some point here?
I honestly think the fact that Vegas thinks that he has a legitimate shot at winning the Rookie of the Year, that this will at least be continued, maybe not to what he's doing now, because what he's doing now is otherworldly. I mean, 1600 OPS, otherworldly. I think that he will continue to be a solid player who creates production on both sides of the ball, and is going to be a staple in that corner outfield spot for a long time. For a long time, which moves into Austin Hayes.
Yeah, this is the question I put in our notes. Are we watching the downfall of Austin Hayes?
I mean, dude, like today I think was the nail in the coffin. Brendan Hyde made
Pinch hit for Ryan O'Hearn.
made the move with a lefty up, to pinch hit for Ryan O'Hearn. Saw one pitch, flew out to left, and that was it. That was it. That was pretty much Austin Hayes' day. Lineup comes back around. You wish you had O'Hearn up in that spot. Lefty righty matchup. Austin Hayes, I think, punched out. Yeah, he certainly punched out. I think this might be the end. Which
Yeah. Here's the thing. Austin Hayes and Ramon Arias picked the wrong year to
yeah,
fall off the face of the planet.
yeah,
I mean, we were saying it in spring training. The outfield contest alone is just insane. I mean, I wish the
yeah.
Orioles could carry like 9 outfielders, because they could. They theoretically could have 9 major league ready outfielders if they
Mm-hmm.
wanted to,
Yeah,
if they could. And that's the thing is, like, Colton Cowser kind of won that, what we thought was going to be the 4th outfielder spot. And you knew, like, oh, if he kind of does what he did last year when he came up, where he was only up for about a month, didn't get many opportunities, and the few opportunities that he did get, didn't really do much with it. You thought, well, okay, but Kerstad's behind him, Stowers is behind him. Like, you had a lot of options, and you thought that 4th outfielder position was going to just rotate through. And then suddenly Austin Hayes is not playing well. Joe's telling us apparently he's been sick. Maybe he's
Sure looks
allergic to
like
the
it.
ball. I mean, like, I don't know. He's picked the wrong year, and it sucks. Here's what sucks. I like Austin Hayes. I like him as a player, as a person. He plays like his hair's on fire all the time. He's got a great arm in the field, but he's not hitting, man. He is not
Yeah,
hitting at all. And Colton Cowser is playing like his hair's on fire now and taking the most of his opportunity. And it begs the question that, yeah, like even if Austin Hayes is sick, when he comes back, how do you take Colton Cowser out of this lineup,
you
man?
can't. You can't.
No. And
You can't
suddenly
even against
Austin Hayes
lefties.
is that fourth outfielder,
Yeah, and I mean at this point, like, wouldn't you want to give a young guy like Stowers a shot, be that fourth outfielder?
Yeah,
Like,
why
I
not?
just don't think, like, regardless if he is sick or not. I mean, if he is sick, why is he getting playing time?
Yeah,
You know,
at that
like,
point, put him on the IL or something, or just sit him on the
yeah,
bench and say, drink fluids, man.
yeah.
Um,
Like, we can't be costing big at bats like the ones today in a tight ball game where maybe he turns the tide. Like, why are we putting him in there? Like, he has to be some degree of healthy if he's still getting burned out there.
and it's to the question too of like, what do you do with him? Because in theory, you trade him to make room for Stowers or Kerstad to
Yeah,
come up. But even then, how do you rotate those guys through? I mean, the good news is Santander as a DH opens up a lot of options for you.
for sure.
Um, but you want to make sure those guys get playing time. I mean, I think that was one of the biggest things that hurt Colton Cowser when he came up originally last year is that he just wasn't getting regular playing time. And
Yeah.
with young players especially, it's so important to make sure they're getting regular at bats so that they can adjust to the major league level. So if you brought up Kerstad, if you brought up Stowers, you'd want to make sure you're giving them enough
Yeah.
opportunities.
And it's even harder now because Ryan O'Hearn's undeniable.
Dude, Ryan O'Him, and the fact
Yeah.
that the fact that you can put him in the outfield, you can put him in at first base, you can put him at DH. I mean, I love cash considerations as a player just because he got us Ryan O'Hearn.
Dude.
Yeah.
I will say Ryan O'Hearn had a tough read on a fly ball out there in right field today. Oh my god.
I mean, he's not a full-time right fielder.
No, certainly not. Certainly not.
But if you need to squeeze him into this lineup, you'll find a way to do
Yeah.
it, and right field is that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that. That's the thing is, I with a heavy heart say it's about time for this team to
Yeah.
move on from Austin Hayes, and I think Austin Hayes feels that pressure too because in the
Yeah.
offseason, he was the one talking about how he wants to sign a contract to be a lifelong Oriole. The Orioles didn't come out and say that. Mike Elias didn't come out and say that.
Because they probably
Austin
saw
Hayes
this.
came out and say that.
They probably saw this like regression in the cards. Like, I mean, it's so stat oriented. Like, he was an all-star last year, and then he had a okay second half. Year
Well,
before,
he's always been a half a year guy. Like he's
yeah,
never put together one full season of greatness. He's always put together a half a season of greatness and then he regresses.
yeah. Sorry,
But
Austin Hayes.
good for Colton Cowser for making the most of his opportunities.
Absolutely.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Austin Hayes or not, Colton Cowser is and should be an everyday starter on
He
on
earned
this
it.
team.
Absolutely earned
Absolutely.
it.
Um
Let's
Now,
wrap with rehab.
yeah, rehab. Um Starting with the most recent news for our injured pitchers, John Means had 3 rehab starts today. He had a fourth, has not gone well. Today specifically went very poorly. He only made it through a third of an inning where he gave up 5 runs, partially on 2 home runs that he gave up. Sounds like people who are watching were saying his command was not there. Jack, should we be concerned about John Means?
I have no idea. Genuinely, I have no idea because we saw what he did last year at the
Mhm.
second half of the season when he came back, and he was good.
Yeah.
Rehab starts are always tough. You get out of a routine that you've always had, in a different ballpark. Not really an excuse, but could be an underlying issue. I think it's 50-50 on whether we should be concerned. Elbow injuries, shoulder injuries are weird things. Sometimes guys come back better than ever. Some guys come back way worse off than ever. So I think it's going to be 50-50 on whether or not he comes back to his true form. I do expect him to pitch in the major leagues in some capacity this year. And I think that'll be kind of like the final tell, and see if John Means still has a spot on the team.
Yeah, I mean, the optimist in me says that this is essentially John Means' spring training, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to take these stats at face value because you don't know what he might be working on
It's
to
true.
get himself stretched out. He could be told, "Hey, throw the curveball over and over and over again and just see if you can locate it where you want to locate it." I don't care about strategy against this hitter if they're a good curveball hitter or not. Um, I think that's certainly something that's possible of just like we don't
Yeah.
care about strategy, just throw these certain pitches and let's see how you feel. That's what happens a lot in rehab starts. That's what happens a lot in spring training. I mean, that's what Corbin Burns was doing in spring training, and everybody freaked out because they're like, "Oh, he's cooked. He's not as good as we thought he was." No, he was fine. He was just working on specific stuff and wasn't concerned about whether or not he was going to get the player out.
Yeah.
That could certainly be the case for John Means.
Yeah.
Um, the other part of me though is like, this is the Norfolk Tides who was beating everyone like a week ago by like 20 runs. They probably would like to win more. I don't know. I don't know. Like you said, like elbow and shoulder injuries are so weird. And he came back last year and pitched well. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, he's scratched for the playoffs because he's hurt again. Like,
Yeah.
I, I, I put on the worried scale. If you would say 1 is not worried at all, 10 is like we should be, ringing the alarm bells. I would put myself at like a 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say the same. On using that same scale though, I'm not worried at all. I'm a 1 about Kyle Bradish.
Oh man, let me tell you about the biggest breath of fresh air that I could possibly have. Reading the news about Kyle Bradish. I don't know about you, Jack, but I was kind of tired of seeing the naysayers in the interwebs talking about like, oh, we won't see Kyle Bradish this year. I don't care what Mike Elias says. I don't care what Brandon Hyde says. He's cooked. He's gonna be TJ gone for the year, like done. And then all of a sudden we get he was supposed to do a rehab start in Aberdeen on Friday, I think it was, and then because of rain, they decided to have him do a bullpen session. And then yesterday, he did get a rehab start at Double A Bowie, went 3 innings, only gave up 1 hit, no runs, no walks, and 4 strikeouts. Apparently, news reached Brandon Hyde that uh, folks that were watching the rehab start said, "Oh yeah, this is 2023 Kyle Bradish. This is the guy that was top 5 in American League Cy Young voting. Kyle Bradish, like he is looking just fine."
Not worried. Let's
Nope,
move on.
not worried. Yeah. To less than good news, Tyler Wells, who has not pitched well this season, has really looked a lot like the Tyler Wells of late June, early July of last year before he had to get sent down to Double A to the pitching lab. He was placed on the 15-day IL dating back to April 13th with elbow swelling. Perhaps that's part of why he hasn't looked well
Yeah.
or some sort of
Yeah. Hear me
injury
out
there.
here. Hear me
Okay.
out
Okay.
here.
Okay.
You never want anybody to get hurt. But if this is why Tyler Wells was pitching poorly, I feel better about that than knowing that he was pitching poorly, completely healthy, and he had just lost it. I think that a swollen elbow probably is going to make you pitch bad. And
Yeah.
take some time, Tyler. That's all right. Get right with yourself. Come
Do
back
you
better than
think
ever.
do you think he injured himself a little bit by putting too much pressure on himself, knowing that with Means and Bradish rehabbing, like him and Irvin are probably the first on the chopping block in that rotation?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think it's a very strong maybe. If he was feeling that way, I think more likely the reason he got hurt was because he was kind of in limbo on whether he was going to be a starter or a reliever. Obviously, he was a reliever last year, and he might have been ready to be a reliever for the rest of his career on the Orioles. They have him start. Maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe he wasn't stretched out enough. Elbow swelling kind of seems like that would be the case. No structural damage, just seems to be like overuse.
Yeah.
Kind of started gearing up too fast. But like if Albert Suarez is going to do this every week, that's a fine replacement. Let Wells get back to what he was when he was in the bullpen. Maybe keep him in the bullpen. Maybe by the time he's healthy, Bradish is back. Maybe Means is back. So who really knows? But I mean, do you think that the Suarez guy is he sustainable?
I mean,
You only
it's
saw one
weird.
start, so
Yeah,
I mean,
we
small
saw
sample
one
size.
start, and it's so hard to base anything off of one start because there's not a good scouting report on Suarez. I mean, we
Yeah,
said it earlier in the show. The last time he pitched in the major leagues was 7 years ago. And even if they went into their records and looked up Albert Suarez in 2017, so much would
you're
have
not getting much.
changed
Yeah,
between now and then.
that's completely
Like,
different baseball.
yeah. Um, so I mean, like, if he pitches like he did today, hell yeah. That's a great
Yeah,
band-aid. That's a guy that's going to keep this rotation rolling as we still wait for Means and Bradish to come back easily. Brandon Hyde said afterwards that I can envision him getting more starts. I just don't know how sustainable this is. I would
yeah,
love to say that this is going to be a Lynn Sanity run, and he's going to
yeah.
have like 3 or 4 starts where he's just lights out, and then Bradish comes back, and you're sitting there going, well,
Mm-hmm.
I guess we got to put Cole Irvin in the bullpen instead of
Yeah,
Suarez because Suarez is pitching
Suarez
well.
is
Like I would
drinking.
love to see that happen.
Sure.
My gut tells me outing number 2 is not going to be as good as outing number 1.
Well,
And outing number
he's
3 is probably going to be worse than outing number 2. So
he
I
set
don't
the
know.
bar rather high for himself. With
But
a
I'm saying
scoreless
like
outing.
as that scouting report comes out,
Yeah, no, that's you're
I'm just
exactly
gonna
right.
see. I feel like I've seen this script before enough in the major leagues. Maybe not this exact one of a guy coming back from 7 years of not being in the major leagues, but I've
Yeah,
seen this script enough of a pitcher coming up that's relatively unknown, has no scouting report, pitches lights out, and people think like, here we go, this is the guy. And then as soon as the scouting report's out on him, he's getting knocked all over the
yeah.
place.
We'll see if the Angels get that scouting report by the time his turn comes around. That will be his next start. We'll be in Los Angeles playing the Angels. That'll just be 5 days, and he will get to face the Angels again, and a team that we certainly have a scouting report on.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see what factors are at play. That series is following the weekend series in Kansas City after an off day tomorrow, Thursday. I think this Kansas City series is going to be a big one. Just knowing how hot they are. We saw them already. Didn't play great. Took some games though. So we'll see if we can be more dominant early on in the series, early on in the games of the series, and try and really prove that the Orioles are back again for 2024.
I think the Orioles are going to face a big challenge with that Kansas City series, just because it's a more open ballpark
Yeah,
there. And we already saw them, like I said, blooping the ball all over, running all over the Orioles. I mean,
yeah,
the pitchers weren't even trying to hold guys, and they play small ball so well in a park that lends itself to being successful playing small ball.
yeah.
Orioles are relying on the home run right now, which when it's working is great, but that can get really streaky, and especially when you're going to Kansas City, which is a big ballpark. A lot of balls that would be home runs are going to be loud flyouts there. So I would get prepared for another really frustrating series against a better than expected Kansas City Royals team.
Kansas City Royals team that leads the MLB in ERA, by the way.
Yes. My hope would be that the Los Angeles Angels are back to being exactly what we expect the Los Angeles Angels to be by the time we go and meet them in LA. And that can probably turn the vibes around. We'll see. Mike Trout is currently tied for the league in home runs. So he's looking like the Mike Trout of old as long as he can stay healthy. So with that, I mean, that's what we're looking forward to this next week. Jack, do you have any final words of wisdom for the people?
The Green Terror hot. There's an article in the Sun about the Green Terror that came out yesterday.
Ooh, so, look at that.
I'm gonna go give it a
look. Look at that. McDaniel College on a tear. Yes, the terror is on a tear.
Hopefully they can match this Orioles offensive output as well.
There we go. Everyone go get your Green Terror gear. Start rooting for Coach Bain. All right. With that, folks, I think we're going to head out for the night. Coming off a great win, Orioles heading onto the road. Let's keep that momentum rolling, and we'll see you next week. Let's go O's.
Thank you, everybody.
You've been listening to UPod Street, an Orioles podcast by fans for fans. UPod Street is an official Birdland Sports affiliate. Directly support the pod by purchasing UPod Street or other Orioles merchandise using the link birdlandsports.com/UPod Street. Get 10% off your order when you use the code UPod Street. Follow us on Twitter @UPod Street and @JackBain20. UPod Street is also on Facebook and YouTube, and you can listen to the show on all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Spotify. On whatever platform you listen, please subscribe, rate the pod, and leave a review. If you leave a review, we may even read it on the show. We'll see you next week, and of course, let's go O's.